me tell you why we've made this commitment. MS-13, may I remind each and every one of you, is a brutal and vicious gang. They raped and strangled a 20-year-old autistic woman to death in Maryland. They hacked 4 people to death with machetes in a park on Long Island. They have kidnapped, sexually tortured, and shot a teenage girl in Texas after she insulted them, allegedly. Killed and mutilated a 17-year-old girl in Virginia, stabbing him 16 times and cutting off his hands. They beheaded and cut out the heart of a man in Washington, D.C. They raped and murdered a 13-year-old girl in California. They sex-trafficked a slew of young girls, including one who was just 12 years old. Raped an 11-year-old girl in Brooklyn while her brother was in the room. Sex-trafficked a 13-year-old in Maryland and Virginia, miles away from this White House, even beating her 26 times on her backside with a baseball bat, pressured homeless New Yorkers to undergo unnecessary surgeries such as spinal fusion in order to bolster their fraudulent lawsuits. These are vicious criminals. This is a vicious gang. And I wish that the media would spend just a second of the same time you have spent trying to litigate each and every individual of this gang who has been deported from our country as the innocent Americans whose lives have been lost at the hands of these brutal criminals. We maintain our position and very strongly.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, we have major news that came down yesterday. This is a huge blow to DNC lunatics. As you can see here, Supreme Court allows U.S. to deport Venezuelans under Alien Enemies Act. This is a huge blow to the Obama-appointed Judge James Boasberg, who initiated the original restraining order on Trump using the Alien Enemies Act, right? Supreme Court essentially told them, you can't do that. Get that garbage out of here. But I digress. The article reads, the Supreme Court granted President Donald Trump's request to halt a federal judge's order preventing his administration from using the Alien Enemies Act to deport suspected members of a Venezuelan gang. We grant the application and vacate the temporary restraining orders, the court said in a per curiam or unsigned opinion on April 7th. The decision applied to the original restraining orders and an extension issued last month by U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, who is an Obama-appointed judge. We can never miss that point whenever stating his name. Justice Sonia Sotomayor penned a dissent that was joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Justice Amy Coney Barrett partially joined Sotomayor's dissent. Now, Amy Coney Barrett is someone that is getting dragged through the mud right now online, as she should be, because pretty much on any critical issue concerning the agenda of Trump, and you can just say the overall agenda of the Republican Party or conservative movement, modern conservative movement, she seems to always be on the wrong side of it, right? And she's getting called out for it now more than ever. As you can see here, this post made me laugh. Let's be clear. Amy Coney Barrett is a white liberal woman. Like I said, that one made me chuckle a bit when I first saw that. This one was very creative. Amy Coney Barrett, when you look like what you voted for, they put the MS-13 tattoos on her. But this is what stood out to me the most, because this is a sentiment that I have heard quite a bit about Amy Coney Barrett prior to this decision, right? A lot of people have been saying this for a while now. Amy Coney Barrett is a Mitch McConnell plant who, of course, voted with the liberals to block President Trump from deporting violent Tren de Aragua gang members. What a freaking disgrace. McConnell is doing everything he can to make sure Barrett is a thorn in Trump's side. At this point, honestly, you can almost always count on Amy to be against whatever it is that Trump is doing. I actually wasn't too confident that this would go in the direction that we wanted it to go to because of Amy, right? I actually kind of tempered my expectations, and I expected the opposite. I thought that because of her, this actually wouldn't pass in our favor. But despite her it did pass in our favor. So thank goodness for that. But yeah, we could expect Amy to be a problem, just I guess for as long as she's sitting in that seat, right? Which is very unfortunate. A lot of people are calling Amy Coney Barrett Donald Trump's biggest mistake, right? In his tenure and throughout this entire time that he has been in and out of office at this point, his biggest and greatest mistake was essentially allowing Mitch McConnell to convince him to place Amy Coney Barrett in that Supreme Court seat, because she definitely actively works against him regularly. But now what I want to get into next is I want to get into what Stephen Miller had to say once this decision came down. He is one of my favorite people out of the Trump cabinet. It's always a joy and a pleasure to hear him speak because he breaks things down so eloquently, and a lot of times very comedically too, depending on what he's talking about and who he's speaking on. But I want to take a moment to play what he had to say right now after this decision came down. So let's get into that next.
This was a huge, a monumental victory for President Trump. The biggest legal win of this administration so far. A total embarrassment for crazy Judge Boasberg, who's been trying to force this president to bring foreign alien terrorists back onto American soil, trying to turn our planes around, trying to empty prisons in foreign countries and bring them back to our soil. This is a monumental, colossal victory for the rule of law, for the Constitution, for our founding generation, John Adams, who signed this law into effect in 1798, and for President Trump in fulfilling his mandate and campaign pledge. What does this mean for you and your family watching at home tonight? It means that the Department of Justice, FBI, DEA, ATF, the U.S. Marshal Service, Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol, and Immigrations and Customs Enforcement now have maximum authority to find and remove illegal alien gang members from Venezuela that have been responsible for so much misery in this country, for the torture and murder of Jocelyn Nungary, for the brutal slaying of Laken Riley. Those monsters can now be hunted down and expelled from this country with speed, force, and efficiency. This is a great day for America, Sean.
And it really is, because these type of animals that are running around here wreaking havoc in the country, they should be removed swiftly, very swiftly and quickly. We don't need to play games, oh, what about their due process? Just get these guys out of here. These are, at this point, terrorists. They are designated as terrorists, and they should be treated as such. You have to go immediately. Now, obviously, when you're talking about DNC lunatics, they're not happy about this at all. And to be honest with you, I could sit here and extend this video by probably an additional 5 minutes longer if I just were to go back and just play all of the responses to this decision coming down and all of the nonsense that has been spewed by the liberals. But I just want to play this one right here. And it isn't long at all. It's only 14 seconds because that's really all that I can actually stomach. But listen to this foolishness here coming from MSNBC. Let's get into this. I forget what this man's name is. I think it's, who cares? It doesn't matter what his name is. I can't think of it at the moment. But you definitely know his face. Here he goes right here. You definitely know his face. I just can't think of his name right now. But let's get into what he has to say
about their status. And just to slightly push back on Mark, even if you tell me that, and you prove that they're gang members, I'm not so sure that I'm okay with them being sent off to be tortured in a foreign country, but I'll leave that aside.
So even if they are proven as gang members, which they're all proven to be gang members, he doesn't want them deported. Obviously, he has to over exaggerate. I don't want them sent to a foreign country to be tortured. That's not what's happening. But even if that was happening, I mean, I don't, because what are they doing over here on American soil? I don't want to say too much, but that's not happening. But if it was, I mean, right? Anyways, I'll carry on. We can keep it moving. We can keep it moving, right? But once again, that isn't happening. This is just, once again, DNC lunatic nonsense, where they fearmonger you to death and just overdo it when it comes to demonizing any decision that Trump makes or anything that goes in his favor. And another thing that went in his favor yesterday was this. Supreme Court blocks judge's order to return man deported to El Salvador. We all know this story. This is a story that I've spoken on frequently concerning, I believe his name is Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, right? And the article reads, the Supreme Court has temporarily blocked a lower court order requiring the federal government to return an illegal immigrant deported to El Salvador, granting the Trump administration a brief reprieve as it appeals the case. Chief Justice John Roberts entered the stay on April 7th, pausing a Maryland district judge's ruling that ordered the Department of Homeland Security bring Salvadorian national Kilmar Abrigo Garcia back to the United States by 11:59 p.m. on April 7th. The stay, which will remain in effect pending future action by Roberts or the full court, also requires Abrigo Garcia's legal team to file a response by 5 p.m. on April 8th, which is today. So it doesn't look like Mr. Abrigo Garcia is coming home anytime soon. I don't foresee him coming back anytime soon, and he shouldn't because he is an MS-13 gang member, as was confirmed by an immigration judge back in 2019, right? That is a fact that is always left out when discussing this man's situation. There are a lot of other facts that are always left out when discussing this man's situation. I've covered it on numerous occasions, so I don't want to rehash it all right now for the sake of this video. But the important thing here is that Trump is racking up victory after victory after victory within the Supreme Court. And this all helps to just help push and further along the mass deportation efforts that Trump is trying to continue on with, that these judges keep frustrating, at least up until now. There's still a lot more work to do and a lot more cases to win, but this is a great step in the right direction. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And also do not forget to follow me on Telegram. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.